Welcome to part 5 of the Peephole manga. I'm going to start by saying if you are one of the lucky few who has been investing in Ryo Miyaichi stocks, this is the video for you because they're going to shoot straight to the moon now because this bulk of chapters is basically all about Miyaichi. Of course, I want to start by thanking for all the support on this series, but let's go ahead and get into this. Like I mentioned, this one's as crazy as it is. It's all about Ryo Miyaichi, and always remember, if you think you can guess what happens next in this manga, I guarantee you can't. Let's go ahead and get into it. Just a very quick recap of the last chapter. Basically, you had Kurosu and Dr. Sakaki going at it in a burning building until all of a sudden one of the dog mask guys pulls up and ends up cutting Dr. Sakaki, and then they take off their mask, revealing that it's finally Miyaichi-san, and she's finally at the scene. So following directly right after this, she's basically standing over Kurosu. You have Dr. Sakaki watching with a bleeding face, and what does she do? Other than pounds on Kurosu and just start making out furiously in front of Dr. Sakaki. Miyaichi at this point, she's going all out. She took off her little overcoat, she's slurping all on Kurosu's tongue and everything, pouncing straight on him, and Dr. Sakaki is just looking in horror as he watches this girl that he did everything for. He's going, stop, don't show me this, and he is absolutely mortified watching Miyaichi and Kurosu making out. And it cuts to a short scene of a few police officers outside of the burning building, and they're basically talking about how this is one of the biggest cases they've ever heard, and they actually show a few dead police officers outside, so we'll see if that's gonna come back later to us. But anyways, let's get back into it. It cuts right back to Miyaichi and Kurosu. They're still making out. Dr. Sakaki's still mortified, and then all of a sudden Miyaichi finally looks at Kurosu and says, "Sorry Kurosu, I just can't hold back anymore." And then she takes out her box cutter and plunges it right into Kurosu, stabbing him. And yes, I said that right. We just saw Miyaichi stabbing Kurosu in his stomach. And when Dr. Sakaki sees this, he goes from a frown straight to a smile, and he's like, yeah, that's real Miyaichi for you. She's just the kind of woman I thought she was. And he's like, there's no exception, Kurosu. There's no exceptions with Ryo Miyaichi. And he's happy that Kurosu's now at the picture. Because Ryo Miyaichi, she's actually a little bit too excited about this, as she's talking about how she got so turned on that she just really wanted to kill Kurosu at this point. And you have to remember, their whole relationship is based on the fact that Kurosu wants to die and Miyaichi wants to be the one to kill them. And so this is like some sweet, embraceful moment for them, and they're just kind of like looking into each other's eyes, very happy about the situation. And Dr. Sakaki just looking in horror. He's like, what is wrong with these two people? This is not normal, which is strange coming from him. But and as they're sharing this embraceful moment, the doors bust open and all the police and firefighter come in, yelling that Dr. Sakaki's now under arrest and the building's gonna collapse and everybody needs to get out because it's on fire. And once again, we end up with Kurosu in the hospital again, like he always does, and he's there with Miyaichi, and they're talking about how they have this bond and they're so connected together. And what a better time to release this video than now, because Kurosu gets released from the hospital at Christmas time. But Kurosu's really a Grinch, and he's kind of mad about it, and he's just seeing everybody being all happy, and he's like, oh man, this is making my injuries hurt. I hate Christmas. Why did I have to get released here? But anyways, happy early Christmas to everybody. But Kurosu's just being a Grinch, and then his day ends up getting better because Miyaichi comes running up to him, and he's like, oh man, I'm glad Christmas didn't leave because now I'm happy, because yeah. And as they're walking and they're having this sweet little moment walking through all like the Christmas decorations, Kurosu starts thinking to himself about how he wants to talk to her about something serious and that he really wants her to stop killing people. And then basically right when he finally musters up the courage to say it, Miyaichi just goes, oh yeah, I've already decided what I really want. I'll stop. And it's just, yeah, he's like, you're really gonna stop killing? And she's just like, yeah. And then Kurosu's just like, oh my god, I'm so happy, Miyaichi, I love you so much. And Miyaichi's kind of embarrassed. She's like, hey, like we're in public and you're hugging me and being all weird and everybody's looking at me. But as he's hugging her, he can faintly smell the smell of blood on her. And then she basically says, okay, I won't do it anymore, so I'll make the next one my last one for real, Kurosu. And everybody in the public around them starts freaking out. They say that the cops are gathering now, and there's some slasher had just killed someone in a back alley over there, which was actually done by Miyaichi, and everyone's just freaking out how someone just killed somebody on Christmas. But Kurosu's pretty normalized his killing by this point, so he's just still hugging on her, and he's like telling her how he loves her. And she basically is like, hey, like, I love you too. I just want you to love all of me the way I am now, the way I'll be. And she basically says, listen, I'm gonna need you to listen to how I got to this point. And now is when we're going to get into the real Maiichi flashback arc on why she is the way she is and why she kills. So we go all the way back in time to where you have little Maiichi here, and she's with her family. And she's at a dinner table having food with her family, and she has an older brother who's essentially just teasing her about her age. She just turned 12 years old, and he's teasing her a little bit about it, and she, of course, you know, being that age, gets upset and storms off to her room. And he's also saying that how she's pretending to be a normal girl, and she's like, yeah, he's right, I really am pretending to be a normal girl, and I don't really feel that way. And as she's in her room, she sees her older brother leave the house, and then she storms out of the house after him to follow him, and it basically says that this is a small curiosity on this night that will forever change her fate. And she follows him all the way into a garage, essentially. And through a little peephole in the garage, get it, you know, another peephole that she's looking through this time. But she's looking through a little peephole into the garage, and she sees her brother with this girl, and this girl's going like crazy. We don't really know why, but she all of a sudden picks up a box cutter, and the brother's like, why is there even a box cutter in a place like this? But she takes a box cutter and she puts it towards her wrist, and then she puts it towards her neck, and she's crying. And then the brother is just kind of looking at her just like, hey, like, what are you, like, he doesn't really care. He's just like, is dying is painful or not unless you try it yourself? And he's like, you know what? And then the brother just takes the box cutter and ends up just stabbing the girl instead of letting her do it herself. And Maiichi's just looking through this peephole, watching in horror as her brother kills somebody. And as she's watching, it says, when I saw my brother commit murder right in front of me, something within me began to throb. So whatever that means, maybe her heart rate rose, I guess. And then the brother's just kind of going crazy, like he's just like touching the blood, talking about how it's so warm and it's all over him. And then he just takes the box cutter and he puts it right to his own throat. And then at that moment, Maiichi busts into the room, and he's just kind of looking at her just like, oh, hey, like, I'm really sorry you had to see that. Like, that wasn't meant for you to see that. And then he also puts the knife to her throat. There's a lot going on here. It's just, the knife is getting pointed everywhere. But then as it touches her throat and a little bit of blood leaks out, she just says, hey, brother, I want to start an exchange diary with you. So we'll see what that means in a bit. But then all of a sudden it just cuts away, and now the brother and Maiichi are just in a boat together, and he's just like, oh man, things are gonna get real nasty, and they're just kind of like sailing away. And then back at their home, basically, of course, the parents are a little bit mad, saying, hey, why'd you let your sister sneak out? But they don't really know what happened. And then this is kind of when Maiichi starts developing to where she starts writing down in her journal, like, she wondered what killing feels like. And this is when she kind of gets her interest. And then she starts this exchange journal, which I'm not really too sure about what it means, but basically she gives this journal to her brother and says, give it back to me once you've written in it, Kay. And then she says, next time it's my turn. And I'll kind of skip through a little bit of things because it's not really too important, but basically there's this journal. Her and her brother start writing back and forth to each other, which, like, they live in the same house. I don't know why they don't just talk to each other, but she'll ask a question, he'll write in it, and then it just kind of progresses like that. You also see her kind of messing around with the box cutter in school, and then one day when it's raining, she puts on this raincoat, and the mom's like, hey, where'd you get this? But of course we know she wears raincoats later. And then basically one day the brother writes, who am I killing next? That would be myself. I'm going to kill myself. And then you see the brother trying to hang himself by a rope when Maiichi runs in, and then he kicks the box out under his feet. And he starts hanging and choking, but then Maiichi, she has the box cutter with her because at this point she's just carrying it with her everywhere, and she very in a rush, she almost a little bit too late, but she cuts the rope and he comes tumbling down and he's wheezing and he starts crying. He's talking about how he killed a person and he can't just keep living with that sin on his shoulders, and he's saying that there's something wrong with Maiichi, that they can't be connected at all, that he's a normal person and she's not. And Maiichi's just like, you want to be free, you don't want to be connected to anything, but even so, bro, also reach my hand out to the moon, kind of referencing that time that she saw him kill somebody. And then all of a sudden she decides to plan her first kill, and she kills her own brother at this moment. But then she walks around and the rain clears away all the blood, and then she looks up at the moon and talks about how she is definitely connected with their brother. So yeah, the first kill she had was her own brother. interesting manga. And then we fast forward to right before when we met her in the beginning, and we basically see that in her little death note thing where she was writing notes, she's actually choosing her victims as people who have done wrong, as kind of like a justice type thing, to where she's killing people who are committed for public disturbance, with like, okay, I don't really think that should make you die. I mean, it depends on what they did. But basically, she finds these criminals, and then those would be the people that she was killing over and over. And then it just kind of says like that she would kill people, and then she would just call the hyena people, the dog people, to come get them. Which, like, they don't really show us how it progressed to this point to where she's kind of part of this underground society. But basically, she keeps killing criminals, and then it shows the flashback right when she met Kurosu at the very beginning when he was walking past her apartment. And she actually wanted to originally kill him, but we've already seen it progress to the point that we're at now. And that cuts the end of the flashback, and then we go back to the present time when they're at this little Christmas festival, and Kurosu, hearing all this, is just like, hey, you're gonna kill me soon, aren't you? And Maichi's just like, yeah, I already told you that, it's gonna be soon. And he's just like, okay, I have one request though before you kill me. Let's get married. And then it cuts to Kurosu talking to Maichi's parents, saying, hey, let me marry your daughter. And like, I don't even think that he's met them before, so yeah, that should be an interesting conversation for them. But time that this is happening, it cuts over to the detective Schneider, and she's still working the case, and she starts making some advances. She learns about how Ryo Maichi had a brother who had killed himself, and pretty easily when she's reviewing the case, she can tell that like, hey, he tried to hang himself, yes, and there is a broken rope, but he died because his neck was cut. And that would be pretty hard to do, you know, from him doing it to himself. So she can already deduce that this wasn't suicide, it was murder. And that's a pretty suspicious thing, especially in a small town, to where even somebody's suicide should be a little bit more well known in the area. And then at this point, she also decides to call over Yamigawa, because if you remember, she's a psychic, and she basically says, hey, I dragged you here without explaining the details because I still don't believe in your psychometry, but I want you to tell me, do you kind of feel anything when you look at this photo? And she shows Yamigawa the photo of Maichi's dead brother, as well as the rope that was found from the crime scene. And Yamigawa puts her hands to her forehead, and she thinks real hard, and she can tell that she can see this scene, and she can tell that this rope wasn't just cut or, you know, mysteriously broken, that it was cut by somebody, and this is a murder scene, and his neck had been severed by somebody else, and she can see a faint outline of a girl with the box cutter. And then Detective Schneider, she's super excited about this, and she's like, we're gonna avenge your brother. I know who this is. I know the murderer in both of these cases has to be Ryo Maichi. I just don't have the proof yet, so we're gonna have to cooperate, we're gonna have to investigate, and we're gonna find proof that this was Ryo Maichi that did these killings of both these people. And then at the same time, Yamagata says that she can see it for one instant. She can see the future, and that 2 people will certainly die. So keep that in mind as we keep going on. But like I mentioned, if you're into Ryo Maichi, stocks are up because you get to see the scene of her trying on a wedding dress, and she looks all good in a wedding dress, and Kurosu's of course looking at it all stunned and pretty happy about this upcoming marriage. And then you see Kurosu and Maichi talking about their upcoming marriage, so they're really serious about this. They're really going through it. But at the same time, they're talking and they say, to swear eternal love till death do us part. That's not eternal at all, is it? And then Maichi says, our love will become eternal precisely because we will be divided by death. And then it ends with saying, it's only 30 days until Maichi-san will kill me, until our eternity is complete. And as always, that is the cliffhanger I'm going to end this video on. I'm trying to put these out a little bit faster, so please subscribe if you're excited for part 6. It's crazy that I've had to make these many parts, but we're a little bit over halfway through the series, so if you're excited to keep watching, go ahead, subscribe, like, and comment. I'll be releasing it fairly shortly.